everybody. In this video, we are going to talk about Jerome, Paula, and the Vulgate. This will be a shorter video. Okay, so Saint Jerome is actually one of my favorite saints, not because he was so holy or saint-like in life. Often you'll hear about or read about these saints that are honestly not that relatable because they're just so good. Okay, Jerome's not like that, all right? Jerome was grouchy, he was proud, he was really combative. The chapter in Gonzales begins with a quote from him, and I think it's super funny. He says, "Frankly, I confess that I get carried away with indignation. I cannot listen to such sacrilege with patience." That might be true, but he also feuded with the other kind of great Christians of the area like Chrysostom, Basil the Great, Augustine, Ambrose, okay? In fact, he actually called Augustine a two-legged ass at one point. All right, so just think about that for a second. All right, Jerome loved classical learning. So much so that he actually feared for his soul. He had a dream that God accused him of being a Ciceronian instead of a Christian, just to give you an idea kind of his inner turmoil around that. So he decided to study Hebrew to get his mind off of worldly things. Then he decided to go to the desert to pursue a holy life, but the life of a hermit was not for him, so he decided to return to society. After becoming a priest and attending the Council of Constantinople in 381, he ended up in Rome as the private secretary to the Bishop of Rome, or the Pope. And it was the Pope who suggested a new project for Jerome, a new translation of the Bible into Latin. All right, so it was in this time in Rome that Jerome became involved with the urban monastic community of women that Marcella had founded. It was in this community that Jerome really finally felt like he was at home. And he studied and conversed about scripture with them. Marcella was known as a very fine scholar. And he also met another widow named Paula there. Okay, Paula is pretty interesting. She was a mother of five and an aristocrat, and she was regarded as one of the more skilled interpreters of scripture in Rome at the time. And she was also one of the more well-known Christian women, too, in Rome. And she and Jerome had a very, very close friendship. They would, do private studies of scripture. They were even kind of rumored to be romantically involved, but there's no evidence that they were. Regardless, they were very, very close, and they would remain so for the entirety of their lives. So when the Pope died in 384, Jerome lost his defender in Rome. Again, he's kind of always picking fights with people. So now that his defender's gone, he decides that he has to leave. And he describes his leaving of Rome as going from Babylon to Jerusalem, okay? Paula and her youngest daughter named Eustochium also left for Rome about this time, and they met him in Antioch, and then the three of them went on kind of this big pilgrimage through the Holy Land, through Egypt, and then in 386, Paula and Jerome decided to establish a joint monastery in Bethlehem. All right. So up on the screen, I have a picture of that monastery. All right. So let's talk just a minute about the Vulgate here, all right? What's so special about this? There were other Latin translations of the Bible after all. However, prior translations of the Bible had used the Septuagint, not the original Hebrew. If you remember kind of in the Second Temple period of Jerusalem, there had been a translation of the Hebrew text into Greek, all right? And so people had used that text, the Septuagint, for the translation. Jerome went back to the Hebrew scriptures, all right, for the Old Testament. And Jerome translated the ancient Hebrew into Latin, and this translation of especially the Psalms was considered very, very masterful. What's interesting, though, it was not super well received. Why? First, it sounded different. Okay, you know how people don't like when things sound different, okay? And many people believe that the Septuagint was actually divinely inspired. So interestingly enough, the Eastern Orthodox Church still uses a Bible translation that uses the Septuagint instead of the Hebrew texts. All right. However, it became the standard text for the Bible for the next 1100 years, 1200 years. All right, by the time the Reformation rolls around, this text is pretty outdated. But yeah, so one interesting thing about the Vulgate that's worth talking about here is we know that Paula had incredible skill in Hebrew. All right. In Jerome's letters, he talks about it. He talks about how she would prompt him with ideas, and they, talk about this. Jerome is considered kind of the sole translator of the Vulgate. But there is that question of, did Paula assist in this? Was she a co-translator? And what does that say for kind of unattributed works from women during this time when we have very, very, very few written works by women? All right, so there is just my short little thing on Jerome here. All right, thank you very much, everybody. Bye.